For 2 years now, I have been on the hunt for what is called a PEMF mat, PEMF mat, pulse electromagnetic frequency mat. Now, I wasn't 100% sure why I wanted a mat, which I think is really funny. It was kind of an intuitive thing. I had been kind of hearing about them, and there was something in me that was telling me, you need one of these things. And so I kind of went down the rabbit hole of, trying to find them. And I heard a woman at a conference last fall discussing how powerful these things were at reducing stress, which I hadn't actually known that. And I was like, oh, okay, that piqued my interest even more. Then I heard from a coaching client that she had bought one and how it was helping improve her sleep immensely because she had been struggling with insomnia, which then that really piqued my interest because I suffer with sleep problems. But I still did not fully understand how these mats worked. And when I started researching them and trying to figure out where to buy one, I soon realized that not all PEMF mats were created equally. So then I froze with indecision, too much information, and didn't want to buy one because I was worried that I would pick one of the wrong ones that wasn't a good quality mat. So fast forward then to a few months ago, I was listening to my friend Amate's Biohacking Beauty podcast. And I heard one of his guests, which is our guest today, one of our guests today, talking about her mat, the AlignMat. And let me tell you, by the end of that interview, I was sold, like hands down, that's it. That's the mat I'm getting. So now fast forward till today, I've now had my AlignMat for a month. And oh my gosh, let me tell you, I am obsessed and I'm going to tell you all about it and why. And you're going to learn all about these incredible mats from our guests today, who is Alyssa Blue and Mike McPherson. Alyssa is a non-practicing aerospace engineering that found the human body more fascinating than rockets. After suffering a health crisis in her early 20s, she went on a decade-long journey learning how to heal herself. Today, as a FDNP, functional dietitian nutrition practitioner, her research background shines, taking a deep dive to investigate her clients' bioindividuality and walk them on a path back to balance. Mike has a similarly pain to purpose story, being an innate medical intuitive and having no resources to understand his extrasensory perceptions. He suppressed his gifts for years, was diagnosed with ADHD and dyslexia as a child. As a young adult, he was prescribed medications to cope with severe anxiety and depression. A mentor assisted Mike on a path of discovery into his gifts. Mike now guides others in subconscious trauma patterns back to wholeness through the use of multiple energetic modalities. Out of necessity to help more people than their one-to-one practice would allow, Mike and Alyssa embarked on a 2.5-year journey of R&D to co-create Align, the only Schumann resonance tuned PEMF mat on the market. It is meticulously crafted art piece blending ancient wisdom and modern technology to empower more people heal themselves at home. So I am so excited to introduce you to these two wonderful people who I've gotten to know a little bit and who are just amazing. So welcome, Alyssa and Mike. That was really
Yeah,
long.
it was great. I love it. Yeah, a lot of acronyms, a lot of a lot of different things in there. Yeah, but yeah, no, thank you so much for having us. It's a pleasure. You're amazing.
It's been great getting to know you too. And
Yes,
thank you so much for having us on your show and for loving Align for the last month. I'm so happy to
yes,
hear that.
super excited for that. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you guys. I just like I'm gonna ask you all the questions that I have about it because I'm like, I'm gonna save these for the interview because there'll be questions I'm sure that my audience is gonna have too. But I I have been honestly looking for years, and it was so instantaneous after hearing you talk, Alyssa, on Amate's. I don't think I'm saying his name right. I always say it wrong, but
Okay.
Okay. Yep.
Amate? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But anyways, it was when I heard you speak, I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. I was sold like instantaneously.
He's amazing, and he speaks
I
to
love
like
him.
hearing mind. I'm like, after I'm like, is your audience gonna like this? I felt it was like really technical. So we're our own worst critic too. So it's
I
like
know.
Yeah.
myself up after that talk.
Yeah, she came downstairs. She was like, I went super deep into science. And I was like, cool, I'm glad that I wasn't on there. I would have just been looking at her and like kind of like a little bit, you know?
The aerospace space
Yeah,
person comes out, hey?
For that.
right, exactly.
Well, we can get into it. My audience is open to that kind of like the deep dives on these things. And when I do an interview about a product that I like, I always want to do it from a heart-centered place of like, hey, I've used and I've tried this product. I believe in it. I got the product before I even was like, hey, come on the podcast sort of thing. And so it was important for me, like I wanted to get it, try it and be like, okay, yes, this is the real deal. And I'm so happy. I was so scared. I'm like, what if I get this mat and it does nothing for me?
Then we take it back. But so far today, I have to say we've had zero returns.
Since we
That's
started.
awesome. Well, and it's so I've got a 10-year-old son, I've got a 17-year-old daughter, and they of course were like, what is this thing? Like another, weird gadget of moms. And they're like, this is
Yeah.
mom, like what the heck?
Mm,
Well, let me tell you, my daughter just had her wisdom teeth pulled last
mm.
weekend. And she was in so much pain and so much inflammation. And so I went on to this little thing that you had sent me about which frequencies kind of align with different ailments. And there was one about teeth in there. And so I was like, okay, we're going to try this. And she was all skeptical. And she was suffering. She's like the worst sick person in the world. So I put it on her bed next to her. Well, let me tell you, she was coming up afterwards and being like, can you come back down and turn it back on again for me? And
Wow.
she continued to use it every day. And she was like, I said, what did I tell you? I said, did that not feel so good? And she's like, it really does actually feel really good. And I was like, there you go. And I don't know if I think it helped because the doctor had said to her, you're going to bruise really bad. You just have that skin. You're going to be swollen. You're going to be bruised. She had the faintest little tiny bruise. She had a little tiny bit of swelling for like 2 days and it went away.
Wow,
So
that's
I'm just
incredible.
saying, could be helpful, could be helpful. But anyways, back to you guys. Enough about me. First,
No,
like
thank you
let's
for sharing this
No, we
because
love the testimonials that come in. We love skeptics and we love the testimonials that are coming in because it's almost like we look at a list, like we have testimonials come in every day and we look at each other and we're like, that's actually happening.
and
That's
we
right.
talk
yeah.
about this. Like we poured over 60 plus years of PubMed published research on PEMF.
Mhm.
And what we read about, because everyone's so bio individual, we all have different experiences when our body has more energy.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's fascinating. And I love that your daughter's a believer now
Me
and
too.
that she feels good because I've had my wisdom teeth out and that sucks.
Me too. I wish.
Right. Yeah, and she's good to go now. She feels good, and now I've sold her on the magic mat. I tell her that's what we call it in the house. I'm like, you
Magic
just
mat.
get on the magic mat, solves all your problems. And I'll talk about my own experience here in a bit, but first, I just your guys' you both have really cool stories. Alyssa, can you share a little bit about what your story was and how you got into this?
So I call myself a recovering type A, and it's funny because I attract clients that
Are
are
you really recovered? Come on. We were just talking about how much we work.
I know. I don't know if you can quite like turn the perfectionist off, and it's just something that like born and bred, like it's just the conditioned response. I've just gotten better, and I have an amazing partner that helps as a barometer for me to balance that when he sees me like,
Yeah.
hey,
I'm
it's like
like, hey, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. You need to calm down. Or you put that computer down. We can do it tomorrow or get on the mat.
Yeah, yeah.
when we're accountable to other people, like we don't want to let anyone down. So it's just that, you know, I will keep going, but he understands that, you know, he'll see me and he's like, babe, you need to fill up your own cup. Just like, you know, you practice what you preach. So leave. As far as my story, man, it starts, I think when I was a gymnast, I began at 4 years old. And by the time I was 6, I started competing in gymnastics. I started developing chronic gut issues. That was like, oh, you're lactose intolerant. It's no big deal. And that developed to like full blown, like chronic IBS type symptoms that I was told that I'd have to deal with for the rest of my life. And then in my government job, I was hired on as a DoD civilian hire as an aerospace engineer. And out of college, within a year of being hired on in my career field, I started having pretty severe neurological issues, liver issues. I was jaundiced. I was losing limb function. I couldn't keep food down. And it was pretty scary because people would look at me as like the epitome of health. I was competing in fitness competitions at this time. It was like a creative outlet for me when I couldn't do gymnastics anymore. So like talk about the type A, I just continued to pile things on myself. And I thought that I could keep all of these plates spinning or burning the candle at both ends. And my body said it had just had enough. I didn't really realize, you know, I was 23 years old. So I just thought it was invincible. So when these things started happening, it was baffling to me and everyone around me. Cause again, they're like, wow, she looks super fit and healthy. And I was literally dying on the inside. And I can attribute this to source from higher self as like, hey, if you stay in this job, you're going to die here. And I went on a family medical leave of absence and I never looked back. I mean, I literally remember driving away from the base and it was like a veil was being like lifted off my body. Like I could think again, like mental clarity, like what I attribute to now. I was living out of alignment with my purpose, but at 23, I didn't know what that meant.
No, nobody knows what anything means at 23.
Yeah, I was working with that was an awesome job that, you know, aerospace engineer, it was the title. I worked my butt off to get that degree and pleasing my mom and like all of these things. You don't want to let people down. And you know, fast forward 10 years, I was still working on healing my gut issues and trying really to understand that. So I got to a point in time where I felt good enough in my body. And this really has a lot to do with my FDN certification. So I'm a diagnostic nutritionist now where I really leverage lab testing to give the body a voice. And I finally had like this missing piece of the pie to understand my own true wellness. And I got to a point in time where I could then share it. So I'll let Mike share a story, but like it's really us coming together that birthed this greater vision for Align.
Yeah. Mike.
So yeah, my story is kind of the same so I'm born innate medical intuitive. And
explain what that is for people that have never heard that before.
So,
I'm very familiar with it, but others aren't.
Right. So like there's you know, I'm sure you know the medical medium, right? That's like good intro into it. But a medical intuitive was where I can actually feel into somebody's body with their permission, or I just feel into somebody and I can feel their imbalances, whether it's, you know, their organs, their muscles, emotional, mental, whatever it is. And I can tap into their piezoelectric energy that is around them. And I actually get the symptoms. So you could imagine as a kid when I had that, you know, I didn't know what the heck was going on, right? One of the instances where I actually saw these gifts coming online is when I was with my grandfather. He was taking care of me, and I spent a whole day with him. And at the end of the day, I was like, Grandpa, I don't know what's going on, but my chest really hurts. And this is like out of the blue, like nothing like I could expect, like wasn't doing push-ups. He wasn't making me do anything like that. And the next day, or well, he said, he's like, you know what, I kind of feel like I have something going on with my chest too. And I was like, you know, really young, so I didn't even know what that meant. The next day we found out he had a heart attack. So I was tapping into his energy the whole day and something sending a signal being like there's something going on, and I was picking up on that. So walking with that, you know, my whole entire life and not knowing what it was pretty scary. But on top of that, having parents that were both military, my dad was pretty high ranking and my mom was in the military as well. So it's like, you know, I'm feeling these things, like walking through a crowd. I would go in through a crowd and I would have like, panic attack. I'd have like a bum knee, my shoulder would be hurting. And I would tell my parents this, and they're like, you're a hypochondriac, kid, get over it, walk
Right.
it off. That was like the biggest thing, right? Is walk it off.
Yeah.
So okay, I'm just weird. I'm a hypochondriac. I gave myself a label. I was like, it's fine, and then just really suppressing these gifts. um it was like more like suppressing caused depression, anxiety, and all different types of mental and emotional imbalances, because that energy had nowhere to go. And I felt like I was like, singled out, and I was a weirdo. And then, going into high school, I got more diagnoses that I had ADHD, I had dyslexia, so all these like compiling labels. And
Labels.
that's like changed the belief for me. So I
Mhm.
like went into like this shell, like this cocoon, right? And I was like, the world's scary. I can't be around people. I can't do anything. I feel everything. And it's like, what is going on? So, I developed extreme anxiety, extreme depression. There was a time in my life where I was suicidal, and there were actually, at one point in my life, there was voices that I heard in my head.
Mhm. Mhm.
And it was like, not negative voices, but voices coming in very clear. So I told my mother that, and she was like, "Oh no, you don't. Don't tell your father that. He's gonna send you to the loony bin." So that just, propagated everything that was happening,
Yeah.
until actually my mother gave me the book, The Law of Attraction. I
Oh,
read that
interesting.
book cover to cover. It was by Michael Logier, and I read it cover to cover 9 times. And I looked up the author. I found him on Facebook, and I was like, "Your book saved my life. It helped me meditate, helped me go inside and know that there's something a little bit more." So that like pierced the veil. And he was like, "Cool, you're welcome." And I was like, "Wait, what? Is this really you?" He was like, "Yeah, it's me. Would you like to be on my like panel of like law of attraction, like testimonials?" I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." So we did the panel. It was amazing. Long story short, I did 50 episodes with this guy.
Oh,
Probably
wow.
around like the 40th or 50th episode, he brought on a medical intuitive. So this guy, like, he would not talk to me. He would just stare at me. Like I could see him staring at me in the screen, just like laser eyes. Right. It was really uncomfortable until like the last episode, where I was like saying my goodbyes to the panel. He's like, "Mike, when you get off, give me a call." And that call changed my life. It was incredible. Like he's like, "I didn't know what to say." He's like, "I'm sorry I freaked you out, but you got the juice, man. You're a medical intuitive. I've gone through all this stuff. So you need to get this certification. You need to read these books. You need to do this." And that like set me on my path. But in the same time, I still had anxiety and depression, and I was going through all these mental and emotional things. So for me to be able to tap in and know that there's something, unexplainable out there, that I could fix myself, that's when I started to heal. And like you said, I was on all different types of medications. I was on SSRIs, I was on Prozac, I was on Xanax, Klonopin,
Gosh.
sometimes at the same time, because the panic attacks were so bad that it felt like I was going to end right there. It's just going to be done. So
Wow.
source, these voices, right, that we were told not to listen to, came in and was like, "Mike, you need to get off this medication." And I was like, "Okay, do I talk to a doctor?" It's like, "No, you're just going to get off this medication to cold turkey." I did that. And that was the craziest, most messed up weeks of my life. So 3 weeks where I was going through a detox with
Yeah, we're
nobody.
not recommending anybody do this.
No, 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 not recommending
This is just
at
the
all.
story.
This is my
Yeah.
story. Please, please, no,
Yeah.
consult your
Please,
physicians if
yeah.
you're going to get off of any medication.
Yeah.
But through that, made me super hyper aware of my ability and the gifts that are coming online. So the more that I released all that medication, the more my gifts were coming back online. I wasn't having the brain fog. And through that, I had to learn what thoughts were mine and what thoughts were coming from like the medication and being blundered, right?
And what energy was yours and what energy was other people's, and
Right,
pain.
exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
So I was able to get off cold turkey, long story short, and I actually was able to go within and heal myself of anxiety and depression, like within those 3 weeks. So
Wow.
that just set me on my course. And from there, I was just running with
And when did you two meet then?
it. We met right before the pandemic. So right before
Oh, so not
everything
that long
like
ago.
went in a handbag.
We were
Um,
introduced July 4th, 2019.
yeah.
He came to a party that I was hosting. We were in Las Vegas, and a mutual friend introduces us, who's also in the technology space, holistic health space as well.
Mhm.
And at the end of the night, he's like, "You should have a session with Mike." And I looked at him and I said, "I'm a scientist. I don't believe in that woo-woo BS."
But also
I
saw
love
it from
it.
my face. And for an aerospace engineer to be sitting next to a medical student 5 years later is a big testament to the
Yeah.
amazing growth that we've both had.
We do life and business together.
Right.
Yeah.
We're,
Well,
we're
and for those listening, we have such of course, a mix of people that listen to this. And so there'll be some people that are listening to you, Mike, knowing exactly what you're talking about, fully like aware of medical intuitives and believers in medical intuitives and source and energy and hearing voices. And then there'll be others that are like,
yeah, I
hello, woo
know.
woo. This is, like, what are you guys even talking about? This makes no sense. But that's the background you come from, Alyssa.
Right.
And
And so
that's
it's
where
nice that that comes together.
It's a culmination. Yes.
we don't think that there are really any accidents on our path and our journey. Like everything
No.
is happening for us, not to us in this universe. And
Mhm.
it's less woo-woo now. Like we talk about like this blending of science and spirit that AlignMat is, but also us coming together to be on this life path. Because I talked about at the beginning of the call, like being a good little type A, I was like my clients, checking all the boxes. I'm meditating, I'm doing the yoga, I've got the diet, whatever the diet, flavor of the month might have been.
Right.
Why am I not feeling better? And it took me working with him to realize that I didn't believe in myself. I didn't love myself. And it took, so much of like taking a layer. We talk about like layers of the onion, like this, so much of the outside world is like the diet and the exercise. It's this outside in approach. And if you don't get like the command center, what the mind believes the body achieves, like if you don't get that online, it's not happening. So it really shifted before we even got in a relationship. It was my work with him that helped me really tune my frequency to say, like, I am worthy.
And it's also yourself too. It's a huge belief factor. Our subconscious programs that are running that are saying these beliefs that, that's not possible. How do we know that anything's possible until we see it, right? That's like the old paradigm. But I mean, like it's feeling and just knowing, right? And you did it yourself. A lot of it. I was just a guide for you and had a toolbox of things that could help you, right?
I had to
Just
invest,
yeah,
at least.
exactly.
I wasn't happy with the subset of experiences that I had up until that point in time. And I was like, I was curious as a scientist and a researcher. I'm like, all right, what is this about? I was curious enough to open the door for myself and experiencing a new level of life and reality for myself, that I was happier. I think that's the ultimate goal. We want to feel good and we want to be happy every single day. And I wasn't where I was standing at. And the more that I worked with him to understand myself, the happier I became.
And Mike, did you find that she gave you some balance to your work as well because she's
Oh my
completely
gosh.
different?
Yeah, so she's the
I
one that
bet.
wants to check all the boxes and write everything down and do the diagrams and everything like that. And I'm like, well, no, it's up here.
Yeah,
I
you're
got it.
right.
Like, oh no, you
Let me
have
just
to
feel
do
it.
it.
Let me just see what I
Yeah,
can
let me
feel
just
here.
feel into it. No, it doesn't feel good today. So I'm just gonna, she's
Right?
like, no, it's on the schedule. We're definitely doing it.
I love it.
So that was like, and she has helped me. I mean, like open up because because of the traumas that I went through as a child, there are logical parts of me that I shunted off
Yeah.
because of
Yeah.
safe. So being with Alyssa, like I can be super logical and not be called because there was a big label. It's like stupid and dumb because like I express things in a different way than other people see sometimes, right?
Yeah.
But it's awesome. Like when I explain it to her, she can explain it back to me in like the logical term and explain it to other people. So, I mean, it's been a match made in heaven, pretty
Yeah.
much.
And then, so how did how in the world did you guys then go, why don't we make a PEMF mat? Like, out of all of this, like, where the heck does that come from? Was that a download from another source?
We had a lot of time on our hands during the pandemic.
Well, we definitely had a
Yeah,
lot of
no
time.
kidding.
Definitely had a lot of time on our hands, and we were actually, working with our one-on-one clients, right? And during the pandemic, we would have our clients that, we couldn't see on a daily basis give us calls. And we would be on the phones for like hours, like coaxing them, being like, this is what you got to do. This is how breathe, take in everything. The world's not falling apart, right? And I was like, there has to be a better way to just be like, hey, you can just go do this,
Right.
instead of just being like, being on the phone with hours. And one day I was just like meditating, and it's right, it came from source. I was like, we have to have a product. And she was like, what are you talking about? I was like, I don't know. But we got to do it.
I don't know what, but it's got to happen.
We need to be able to reach
Exactly.
more people is the thing. It's like, oh wait, we can't clone ourselves. We get the same
Yeah.
24 hours in a day. And it's like we're walking one-to-one with people. And we talked about it. Like, how do you fill your own cup when you're constantly pouring it out? And it's like, well, that was another thing that Source told them, like, we don't want to be someone's guru. Like, I don't want to be an expert. I want to share and teach what I know so you can make the best decision for yourself. And I feel like the mat is such an incredible tool for people to be able to just like tap in and start listening to the signals their body's giving them.
It's so cool. And it was like the next meditation, it compiled on itself through meditations and like downloads and everything. And it was like, has to be frequency technology, has to be with crystals because we love crystals, right? And it has to have like really good components. And that was part of the R&D over 2.5 years of research and development, like taking apart other mats and other things that are on the market.
We've already been
and
biohackers.
we
We've been
have, we
exposed to
knew
all
it
of
was
this,
there. Yeah.
but just understanding a lot of the stuff, and this is coming from him. Like, he's like, I don't feel it. I'm like, I'm used to not feeling things. I'm pretty logical. I'm like, I don't think it's working. And it's like, if he says that and he's like super feeler,
Yeah.
he's like, we're like, we know that there's something here. We reread, like I said, we poured over the research. We've seen positive intention from high intensity PEMF. Like, where's the sweet spot here? What's missing in the environment to help more people tap into not only their own gifts, but their innate ability to heal themselves? And we are just so depleted of energy. So how do we help raise people's vibration in that sense? So it's not woo-woo, it's actually it's science.
There's science behind it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
Um,
but we just knew that it needed to be a product and a frequency device.
and then and then you started to kind of,
Yeah.
obviously things started to unfold and it sucked you down that path, which
Having
once you're on the right path, then it's just like a matter of like, it's just something
it
just
snowballed.
pulls you in,
Yeah,
right? It's like,
that's
this is
right.
what you're doing. That's what happened to me
And
with every like career change or whatever, where I've gone in my business has been exactly that, where it's like, I get this download and it's like, this is what you're going to do. And you've got no choice in the matter. And it's like,
right.
what?
Yep.
you don't know how you
And
make
it,
it from here to here. You
right.
know steps, but you keep getting breadcrumbs, and that's where it's like we were literally being cheered on because every time we thought we'd quit, and it's like, I don't. This is going to be too hard. We don't know enough. Like all of the negative self talk. Something else would happen. You're like, absolutely, you're supposed to be on this path. This is what you're supposed to be doing.
Right.
To him, even like throwing his back out and being on some components of the tech and literally having an aha moment within an hour.
And I don't hurt myself. That's just the thing. Like I was working out in the gym. I've always worked out in the gym. I was a bodybuilder. I competed. And one day, like when I had this idea, or when we had this idea to like actually start making it. Yeah, we're in development.
The components weren't all
I was
together
like,
yet.
I want to see if this really works. Yeah. And then the source was like, boop, okay.
Okay.
So yeah,
yes.
that was incredible.
Yeah, I have a very similar story. Absolutely. It was like, oh, you need to be going into the perimenopause and menopause space. And I'm like, oh, I'm good. Like my hormones are good. I don't suffer with anything. And then 42 years old, I was put on the wrong medication, which sent me into menopause at 42. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And then realized, wow, there's no information about this out there for women and no help. And I'm like, yeah, but who's going to listen to me? I'm not a doctor. I'm not, you got all these limiting beliefs and I don't know enough about this. I can't do blah, blah. And then it's like, oh, the more I knew and the more I talked about it, like suddenly it's just like blowing up around me. And all these people are coming to me and being like, my doctors aren't helping me. And it's like, oh, maybe I don't need to be a physician. Maybe it's a good thing I'm not a physician.
Not bound by the same
Yep.
rules, and it's beautiful because be careful what you ask for. But you are
Yeah,
supposed to be lining up
for
in this
sure.
place to be able to help the people that you are.
That's what it
Yeah.
is. Like
Right.
that's what we all are here to do, is to help more people, right?
Yeah.
Actualize their healing potential. But I mean, like once you like try to veer off that path that universe says, source, God, Buddha, whatever it is, has you going, it's like
Yeah,
course
no,
correction.
no, over here. Yeah, exactly. Course correct.
Yeah.
Oh, and I do align with so much of what you say, Mike, because I was prior to this, I did body work for 20 years, and I do consider myself a smidge of a medical intuitive. I just used to say I'm very empathetic and I'm an intuitive, because I would have flashes of what was wrong with somebody's body or where the pain was originating from before I saw them. And so I'd have this like flash of someone's hamstring, and I'd be like, oh, their pelvic pain is actually from their right hamstring. And then they'd come in, and sure enough, that's what it was. And same with like, I had to realize what was my emotions compared to other people's emotions. And like, especially people close to me, I'd be like my sister. Whenever I was around her, I would get such bad anxiety. And it took me over a year to figure out it was her anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And then and her expressing finally to me that she was like riddled with anxiety all the time, and me going, oh my gosh, it's you, it's not me. Like, but yeah, so I resonate with so much of what you say and what you do. And I know 100% it's real. It's not woo woo. I've been in this industry forever. And so it is important that people, I think, open up their minds to that side of things. And we can see that you guys experienced that with each other, that you had to open up your minds to see each other's ways and how you think and respect that, and then and come a little bit over on each other's side, which is
Exactly.
awesome, which is great. So tell us what is this PEMF mat? We're half an hour into this conversation. We still don't know.
I know. This happens all the
I've been using it for a month. I still don't know half of it.
yeah.
So we're talking frequency. What do you mean by that? These crystals, what is that? Like, what? Tell me everything.
30,000-foot view. So it's a multifaceted therapeutic tool to help the nervous system shift from a state of stress to rest and digest in minutes. Deeper approach on how we actually do that. So surface layer, it looks like a piece of art. It's beautiful. It's 30 pounds of globally sourced crystals. It has 7 different energy center aligning stones. For those that understand, these energy centers in the body are called chakras. And
Which
so
is science, people. It's
it is
not
science.
woo-woo. This is
Ayurvedic
science. You can take
medicine.
pictures of it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's been around for about 5,000 years, long before, modern medicine ever existed. But the way that I liken it, and it makes it easier to explain, is that these stones are minerals, no different than the electrolyte minerals that we put in our water for hydration. So fluid balance and electrical connections in the body. Literally every cell in the body requires sodium and potassium to make electrical connections. So we are energy bodies. When we lay on the mat, our radiant heat, so we're sitting somewhere in the range of 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit, our radiant heat from our body interacts with the minerals in those stones, and it affects the body, this is scientifically proven, to increase our serotonin levels, our happiness hormone, and release free radical damage from the body. So all of that stress, the oxidative stress that we're exposed to, whether it be from the environment or from our job and all the things that we perceive. So that's just like the top layer.
Yeah.
So
And that was super important for us to have, genuine stones in the mat, because each one of these stones have a different vibrational frequency, have a different signature that they're sending off into your body that aligns, pun intended, with the chakral energy centers or these energy centers that we have throughout the body.
And he can actually see them.
And I can see them. And yeah, within the mat too, it was like it made a lot of sense to have everything set up the way that it is. But that's just the top layer. So that's like me, right? That's like the medical intuitive on top. Then we get into like the complex interior, right? So where the PEMF modules are and everything. So continue.
In addition to the frequencies, again, like I think our
So
whole
just hold on. So do other mats not have the crystals or different kinds of crystals?
So there are a ton of mats out there that have zero crystals at all, which is lending of them being, I guess, more portable in the sense because the stones are really what creates the mat being 35.
The weight.
Yeah, the weight in the mat. So it is still portable, you know, it trifolds and it has its own carrying case and bag. I'm just, for an instance, I'm 5'1", I'm a little shorty. I can still carry the mat, no problem. And
yeah, me too. 5'3", no problem.
Yeah, no problem. But it is the stones that give it its weight. So there are plenty of mats on the market that don't incorporate stones at all. But this is really that piece of like ancient wisdom that nature gave us. And nature, we love to say this all the time, that nature didn't make a mistake. Like we are in.
I say that all the time.
Yeah.
Right. So why did we want to change it? You know, I mean, so we have relationships with mines from all over the world that we get our different stones from. And it's actually upcycled stones, right? So those big pieces that you see in like museums, the cathedrals and everything. So they do a lot of like cutting down. So we're like, well, why don't we just go to these, you know, quarries and these mines and just ask them if we can, you know, utilize their waste, otherwise their shaft, right? So and they're cool. So that's how that, like, you know,
that's crazy that's you guys figured, like, that you even figured that out, that you were like, okay, well, let's just go to these quarries and see if we can just use just the stuff that's just lying around, like what's the shrapnel to put in our mats. And so people, I want people to understand. So the mat itself, it looks like kind of like a wide yoga mat. And then there's these, it's like it's sewn in, but you can see them. It's like a mesh. They're hidden, they're behind mesh, and there's lines all the way down the mat. And each line is filled with little tiny stones. And they're different colors. And then what Mike was saying was each color and stone has a different frequency, different energy. So, and that frequency and energy will align with the chakra when you're lying on it. So to give an example, let's say your chest is lying against what would be known as, like, your chest is the heart chakra. So it would be kind of lined up when you're lying on the mat with what stone? I don't even know.
Is it green aventurine?
Okay, there you go. So that's the green stone would align with your heart chakra, which would help with the frequent, maybe explain what that does.
Energetic flow in the body.
Right. So the mat's giving you more energy and that you otherwise wouldn't have. So that's just one component of it. That's like the main components. So
the importance, talk about the importance of the stones, because you're like, how did you even know to do that? Well, we did 2.5 years of research, and it was literally 2 years of that was finding genuine stones, because in our journey, we were given painted glass. Mike likes to say, like, the fish tank rocks.
The aquarium rocks, we were actually given that. I was like, these are bright blue and this is pink, like really pink. And it's coming off of my hands. I'm not going to use that.
Wow.
In our journey, they sent us all sorts of garbage. And so we're like, why, how hard would it be to go direct? And we've worked with people at like the Tucson Gem Show, and we've loved rocks for a very long time. So it just, that created our personal relationships, and that's been really important to us as well.
So the rocks are super important.
They're very special.
In that we have PEMF.
So I'm going to talk about the infrared heat first. So going layers into the mat. So the mat is actually like 13 layers deep, and it looks like it's in this nice little tidy package. Yeah.
Okay.
It has unlike traditional infrared heat, which uses a copper wire, we actually have a carbon fiber layer in the mat that heats really quickly and really evenly, and it doesn't produce any EMF. So the entire mat is completely dirty electricity free. including the shielding that's wrapped around the, the plug is grounded, the cord, and the controller itself has a signal generator in it, for those that know. It's not just riding on a 60 hertz or a 50 hertz in the UK carrier wave from the electricity in the wall.
And
It's
that's
actually
super important, because that type of energy that's coming from the wall, that's known as dirty electricity. And like for you that are watching and they don't know what that is, that's actually detrimental to our energetic field and to our body
DNA.
and our electric signals in our body. So that we needed to find a way to not just have direct current going into the mouth. So
yeah, so we're shifting that terrible, the hertz frequency of the AC current coming from the wall into a signal generator in the controller. And again, everything's shielded. So when you're laying on the mat, this is where that nervous system is actually shifting. You feel super relaxed. And we liken it to walking barefoot on a beach. So now you have the stones, like you're taking, like you're laying on the mat. We actually watch people shift from like short chest breaths to deep diaphragmatic breaths. And like they're taking off
to dropping into the parasympathetic state.
You're removing your invisible armor that we wear all day long out there, because we have to protect ourselves, or we feel we do.
And we feel safe in these natural earth frequencies, like you said. So it's tuned to the Schumann resonance frequency. And she can explain what the Schumann resonance frequency and where it comes from, because it's really detailed. And that I would kind of butcher it a little bit. But I've heard it enough. But yeah, so the Schumann resonance frequencies, like we said, the earth doesn't make a mistake, right? Nature doesn't make a mistake. So we're like, what frequencies can we put into the mat that will actually help have a shift in the body that is natural and doesn't feel abrupt or foreign to the body when we are shifting into a state? And it's like a vulnerable state, right? That's why we go to that deep diaphragmatic breathing, and we take that armor off. When we take that armor off and we start to relax, these frequencies can implement and be uptake into your body a lot easier. And these energies, this energy that's coming from the mat is giving your body energy to heal itself. And that's one of the things that we drive the point home on. It's like, the mat's not going to heal you. I'm sorry to burst your bubble. That's not it. That's not what we're selling. We're actually, the bigger picture is to actualize your healing potential. So when you turn up the frequency in your body that you otherwise wouldn't have from a low frequency, you turn that all the way up, baby, your body is doing what it needs to do on overdrive, and it's for the good. So
crazy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the frequencies are the rock star in the mat. Everything else is just the bonus.
So the infrared piece is separate. It was like an added, let's put infrared, because infrared, you can't see it, but it penetrates into the body. It's a sound, right? Is that or a light? A light.
Electromagnetic. It's just outside of the visible light spectrum.
Right.
So we're looking at so the majority of the electromagnetic spectrum is not visible light, but just outside of what we see as visible red light, it translates into the infrared range. So we're operating in what's known as the bioresonant range. So we're at the lower end of the mid infrared into the higher end of mid infrared and lower end of the far infrared. So I just want to get that correct. Yeah. So
it's like being an infrared sauna. So instead of your body getting tactilely hot, right? You have something you're like, oh, that's hot. It doesn't work like that, right? It's the waves that go into your body and are penetrated through the fascia and the muscles that help your body relax. And you feel that heat because of the exchange that's happening with the light frequency.
Okay.
And that's why hydration is so important when you're on the mat too, because our body is predominantly water and minerals, which are conductive. So we need to be hydrated to enhance the experience, and it actually helps push a gentle detoxification when you're on the mat too.
Yeah. And then that in infrared is just really great for, like you said, detoxification, but also for muscle pain, inflammation, relaxation, and healing of, it does help to heal. Like if you've got injury or you've got, you pulled a muscle or you worked out, it does help with that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's just penetrating 6 to 10 centimeters into the body, even with the stones, because the stones interact with that radiant heat as well. So yeah, it's the component that, unlike an infrared sauna where you're going in there to sweat toxins out, that's not our goal. The whole goal of us combining these components together was to help shift the nervous system. That is
Right.
the most important thing, because everyone's walking around so stressed out, whether they admit it or not, because we've justified this as our new normal. Yeah, the body keeps the score, and you feel the difference within minutes of being on the mat, what's happening actually tangibly in your body.
Yeah, you don't want to get off the mat. We're going to talk about that. But how much can I use it? Can I live on it? No, okay. Schumann resonance. What is Schumann resonance, and how is it that the different frequencies, or these frequencies, they're, when you go up in frequency, is this a stronger frequency, or is it like rapid, more fast, like a faster frequency? Sorry, I want the text. Like I want to understand
Yeah.
what's going on.
So I can break it down like super simple, and then
Okay.
she'll like, put a lot of logic into it. So
Okay.
electromagnetic field therapy, right? So it's pulses of electromagnetic field, it's pulses of electricity going into these PEMF cords. So there's a frequency in the mat that's 1.2, right? So it's 1.2 pulses of electricity a second that goes into these PEMF modules, right? And then there's something called the Earth's heartbeat. It's 7.83. So that's just saying that it's 7.83 pulses per second of electricity going into these PEMF cores.
So
Okay.
to dive a little further, when you're like,
Yeah.
when you turn it up, are you increasing the magnetic intensity? No, that stays stable consistently. So we are what is known as an ELF device. So we're operating in extremely low frequency range. So to give you an example, the Earth's magnetic field is 0.5 to 1 Gauss. Our mat is right at 3. So you're going to feel it more palpably. But when you're like, hey, how can I just lay on it forever? Well, you're not going to overpulse yourself. And this is something that's familiar in like these delicious and yummy frequencies to the body, because we are so indelibly used to being evolved with walking around barefoot on the Earth's surface. It's only, a recent advent to be on rubber-soled shoes and in our concrete foundations on our house, disconnected from the Schumann resonance. So you asked what the Schumann resonance is. It is basically the charged surface of the Earth that comes from lightning striking the Earth. And that
Oh,
yeah. I don't know if you knew. Okay.
no.
Yeah. So the sun sends that electromagnetic, field, like it sends that to the Earth's ionosphere, and then it falls to the Earth as lightning. And everywhere, every moment on the Earth's surface, there's about 2,000 lightning strikes that happen. So we are electric. I've heard of the body electric, like every.
Okay. Yeah. I did not know this. Okay.
So it's charging the Earth's surface.
Charging the
It's
Earth's
coming from the
surface.
inside out, like we think, that's coming from the core of the Earth. No, it's not. It's coming from those lightning strikes that get stuck inside the ionosphere.
This is the purpose of the of the lightning. Mother Nature makes no mistakes.
Yep.
And we're being bombarded with all these solar storms. So if anyone on your listeners watches the Schumann resonance, they're measured at different points all over the world. And we talk about these harmonics. So we have 8 harmonics of the Schumann resonance programmed in the mat, from 1.2, which aligns with the delta brainwave frequencies of deep sleep. So that's where it feels yummy and
That's
delicious.
P1, right?
P1,
is that P1?
yeah.
Okay.
P1. And then all the way up to P5 is 39.9 hertz, which is like the highest harmonic that we chose to put into the mat. We've seen the Schumann resonance charts online from where they're being measured going up into the 80s, and having blackouts. There's just so much solar energy coming to the Earth right now.
And that's for people that are feeling that are watching, right? It's why we feel so charged and might feel a little bit more anxiety. And it's just that excess energy that's in the ionosphere bouncing all around. We're actually uptaking that. So it feels a little, dysregulated, because there's so much energy coming through.
So because there's so many lightning strikes on the Earth that it's in certain areas we're seeing this really heightened. Do I get that right?
This is all coming from the sun, though.
Right. It's coming from the sun, and then you have electromagnetic storms, right? Magnetic storms that are happening too. So that's intensifying.
And why is that happening? Because of
because
what we're doing to Earth? Is this a bad thing, kind of? Are we, because we're wrecking Earth, and this is Or
I don't think it's,
is this
I
an
don't know.
environmental issue or what? Like,
I will attach a good or a bad to it. It's just,
right. It's just,
Mother
this is
Nature.
what's happening.
It's shifting. We are changing every second of every day. I think the earth and everything that's happening around us is changing too. So we're just kind of like learning how to acclimate it with it better.
Does the higher frequencies also translate to being higher? It does translate into being higher frequency humans.
Mhm.
Like that, like it's like raising, is it raising our vibration? Is it
Raising our vibration, but it
like, could
feels
this be
uncomfortable.
universe trying to get our attention? Like, hey, slap us around, like pay attention here, and something's got to change or something is changing.
If we were
Feel
to
so.
assign something to this, it was tapping back into our true potential, because we are such powerful creators and manifestors. And I feel as of, the last several decades and maybe a couple hundred years, that we have had experts that we are assigning our faith, our education, our health, all of these things external to us, but no one can actually walk a moment in our shoes.
Mhm.
So really trying to, like, I guess, shake us energetically to say, hey, wake up and realize how powerful of a creator that you are.
Right.
And you have everything that you need in this moment to heal yourself, to manifest the life that you want, to live in the reality that you believe in. So
Well, that's all real. And I mean, like, even if you can start and pierce the veil or open the door by just being on some tech, like the AlignMat, and just being like, oh wow, the sensations that I'm having in my body, because the frequencies, once you uptake these frequencies and the energy in your body gets heightened, it's going to find old pain points, right? Or things that are in imbalance in the body. So it might feel like something lighting up, you might feel a vibration, but that's your body, your innate wisdom telling your body to heal itself, right?
Mm-hmm,
So it doesn't
mm-hmm,
take it out of your hands. It's all within you.
mm-hmm.
Everything
you're
that's
just feeling
in,
it.
yeah, everything that's like biohacking and everything, it doesn't heal you. It gives you the energy to heal yourself.
It's a tool.
Mm-hmm.
It's cool.
Yeah.
Right.
And because we're so shut off from our own self-healing, our own intuition, like we're constantly looking outside of ourselves. And it's so important to go back to being inward. I'm kind of glad that I almost didn't know any of this, and I got to try the mat, not really knowing, like kind of just being open to, I don't know what this is going to do for me. Apparently it's good for stress and sleep. So I'm sold, like, and I heard you talk about it, and it was, but I still, when I started to use it, I didn't remember even really what you had said in that podcast, unless I just remember thinking I knew that was the mat that I wanted. Right. So that's all that I got. But I was like, okay, what she just said to me, that's made me, I'm sold on that mat. So I'm glad that I didn't. And I remember reading the pamphlet that came, and it was like, here's kind of what you could expect. And one of the things you listed, of course, was tears, that you may cry. And
Mhm. Right.
being in the bodywork industry, oh my gosh, like I would be working on somebody and out of nowhere they would start bawling their eyes out. And I've received so much bodywork myself, and I've had those moments in yoga and bodywork where it just comes out of nowhere and you're crying and you're like, what just got released? Oh my God. So it was kind of like when I read that, I was like, oh yeah, but it won't happen to me. For some reason, I just thought that, like, I won't get that. And it was
Mhm.
so funny. The first time I lied on the mat, I suddenly was like,
No.
I was like, no. And I got this like total, like well up, like feeling that just came right through my body. And I didn't like break down and start bawling, but I teared up and I could feel this like emotional, like, like just maybe it was just oh, I needed that, or I need this, or I don't know what. And I haven't felt it since, but it was there 100% out of nowhere. And I was like, very interesting.
Mhm.
Um, and then I had a shoulder pain from working. It's a mouse arm, I call it the mouse arm, from like holding my mouse out constantly, right? Way too much on my computer. And it's so painful. And it's been years and years. I've done so much body work on it. I just injected it with BPC 157 for 3 months straight. I've went to like this bone guy, and I did all these exercises. And I mean, I've done physiotherapy, I've done it all. And it was at an all-time, like at its worst. It was so painful. And after a month of using, no, after 2 weeks of using the mat, it had substantially decreased where I can finally sleep on it. And I couldn't before. And I was like, no way. Like there was something I wasn't trying to fix with the mat, and it was just like, oh my gosh, that's working. And then I get chronic migraines. I'm on medication for it, but they've been really bad recently. It's the shift in weather.
Mhm.
And several times now I've been able to, when I feel it coming on, I can just go lie on the mat and it gets rid of it and boosts my energy. It will kind of give me this kind of like, ugh. And I've been playing around with the different levels, and I want to talk to you guys about that. But because there's ones where I feel like, oh my gosh, I just want to fall asleep, and you just melt into the mat, and you're like, oh, I don't ever want to get up from this. Right. But then there's times where I'll use it and I feel like it gives me a jolt of like refresh where I'm like, okay, I feel better now because I will have had a long, stressful day, and I can kind of just bounce back better. And I get this like, it's like the veil lifts after I'm on it. It's like, oh, okay, the fog is gone, the brain, the stress, whatever it was, it's gone. And so that's what I've been getting. And then every single night I use it, sometimes for 2 hours. I lie on it and I just watch TV. I just lie down on it, watch TV. I usually start with P4 because that's the de-stress one, and then I move to P1.
Move it down. Yeah.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
perfect.
Is that okay? Am I abusing my mat? Like, am I on it too
No, not
much?
at all. And I mean, like, we're a big proponent of using our mats too. And I mean, like, it's a big, yeah, we definitely work on them. We actually have one of our mats at the end of our bed on a massage table. So we
That's what
can
I'm gonna
like
do.
roll into or onto it. And then at night we can roll off of it into bed. Because it's amazing. Like the mat meets you where you're at. And like I tell Alyssa and she tells me, it's like, go on the mat, leave it on the mat. Because there
Right.
will be, like those processing moments. But yeah, we use it all the time.
The issues are in
And
the tissues, baby. And it
Issues in the tissue.
you've seen it in actual body work. And when we use this in
Yeah.
conjunction with practitioners that are doing hands-on work, oh my gosh, it's magical because
Mm.
they put someone on the mat for either 5 minutes before they see that client, or they use it as an addition to their session. And like same client, they're like, this is like night and day. Like being able to get into the body because they release that armor they're wearing on the contraction.
Mhm.
It's really fascinating. And thank you for sharing your personal experience, because it's different for everyone. That's why I say, like, well, the mat, what's the mat going to do for me? I'm like, I don't know. You're an individual. You're N of one. It could be very different for you than it is for me and him.
Right.
And not everyone has an emotional response, but we do work with a lot of veterans and first responders that do have PTS, trauma, anxiety, depression symptoms. And we have, now gotten to a point in time where we are prepared for that. And, we would choose to use the black tourmaline mat, the stealth edition, for a demographic that we know is dealing with those mental and emotional issues, because we've seen that the trauma response as the nervous system shifts in the Zen mat.
Yeah, no,
Nice.
I don't know what that is. No, tell me what, like, I know you guys have 2 mats, and
Yeah.
yeah. So
We
tell us
have
what the other one is then.
so yeah, we have 2 mats. The first one is the Zen, and that's our flagship one.
That's
It's the
mine.
purple.
For 90,
Yes, that's the one you have. Yes.
the perfect fit. And it's beautiful, it's attractive, you're gravitated towards it.
Mhm.
But for those that are dealing with mental and emotional issues,
Yeah.
we developed the stealth out of necessity.
Well, it's actually a funny story on how like the stealth came to be. Is like I have a lot of friends that are, SEALs and Marines and everything. And when we were in R&D, I just sent a picture of the mat over to one of my friends who's a career Marine. And he was like, what is that? A multicolored yoga mat? What do I do with that? I was like, no. So I explained to him what it was and like how it worked. And he was like, that's amazing. I would never get on that
Oh,
because of colors. I know. I was like, dude, you need to like open your mind. But then that like sparked an idea. It's like for our first responders and our vets, we actually came up with an all black one. and a black tourmaline stone. So it's all black tourmaline throughout the mat instead of having the different 7 shock roll stones. And black tourmaline is actually known metaphysically and physically to help with anxiety, depression, and PTS. So I was like, well, that would be amazing to put that in the mat, and also for it to be black and for it to be called stealth. So it's like, appeals to like the more masculine side and catering to them. So it was pretty funny how that came to be, but it's it's
And you
incredible.
see it working differently, like
it feels different. And we are also seeing, as the nervous system shifts for a demographic that's dealing with anxiety and depression, that initially, when we only had the flagship product, we had the Zen, it would feel, for lack of a better technical term, I haven't figured out one yet, it feels floaty. Like it doesn't feel like safe or grounded, if that makes sense. So
It's still safe and grounding, but it's like it's uplifting, I guess.
So like for anyone that's doing meditation or yoga or just watching their TV or wanting to go to sleep, that's not just dealing with maybe some physical imbalances, or even just releasing something that wasn't serving you, the Zen is perfect. For someone dealing with hardcore PTS, long-standing trauma, we have seen now, and we're actually gearing up to start doing research in November. So that is coming down the pike for anyone that is curious about this. We are going to be doing sleep studies, heart rate variability studies, and then working with a demographic of veterans to actually, for both mats. So that's what's then, but we're going to be working with a demographic of veterans in Florida, actually, to see how when their nervous system shifts, how they're able to verbalize trauma. So we're actually seeing this. We just don't have any research on it yet. It feels like they're being hugged on the black tourmaline. It ends up being like an inverse weighted blanket is what we call it, but they feel safe. We watched it happen at Happier Health, the show that we met Dr. Amy and you did your talk at. We had 2 gentlemen, 2 separate occasions, that laid on the stealth mat. The first guy was an Army Ranger, 110% disabled. He's like, I can't sleep on a normal basis. He fell asleep on the mat, didn't even know he fell asleep.
No, oh my gosh, I got shivers all over me.
That was amazing. Like he said, I was laying on the mat and Alyssa was working with somebody. Then I closed my eyes, didn't realize I went to sleep. And then she was working on somebody else. And I was like, maybe I should get up. But he was like, Mike, I haven't been able to go to sleep or stay asleep in 15 years.
No, that almost makes me want to cry. That's so emotional.
I
I hope he bought the mat.
We gave him one.
You gave him one.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes me want to cry even more.
Yeah, he left. We gave him the one that we had. He demoed and had that experience on at the show. Yeah. He lived in Austin, so we just.
It was incredible. He's like, I can't take this. I was like, you're gonna use it. Yeah. It's helped you so much. Please, like, this is what we do,
I want to cry.
And now we have a picture of him and his dog on it. He's like, my dog like never lays on the floor with me. I just try it, like, it's his time, it's his territory. The mat's on the floor and the dog's like pushing him out of the way to get off of that.
Oh, do you guys use both? Like, will you use your self for different reasons for your own healing? Like, you kind of shift around?
Both have them out.
We just have them both out.
Yeah, we both have them out. I mean, like, I would get on the Zen mat all day. I don't care about the colors. I picked the purple. I love purple. Purple's an incredible color. So I was like, dude, what? Marine? Purple?
Royalty.
It's good. Yeah, it's
royalty. Crown chakra, uplifting, intuitive color. So it's beautiful. And that was it. It's not a logical thing. When we tell people, like, pick a mat that resonates with you, it's something that you gravitate towards. And it could change at different points in time. For someone, like, when we first got the stealth mat, I actually didn't anticipate to, like, I don't want to say I didn't anticipate to like it, but just really not have an affinity for it like I did the Zen. And I felt it initially so much stronger for myself. And I think it was unpacking some of my baggage and things that I had to go through when we got that first prototype.
And the only thing that's different in the mats are the stones.
That's it.
That's it.
All of the electronic components.
Everything is completely
all
the
the PEMF, the infrared heat is completely the same. Yeah.
Do you ever have people buy both? Eventually, like, buy one and then they end up buying the other?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
actually had that, well, quite a
Hack your
bit.
health.
It's Hack Your Health, and then moving forward, we've had quite a bit, his and hers map.
Like they'll get like
You know?
for an office, you know, people, we have a lot of practitioners that use these, so they'll get one of each. And
Yeah.
people just get to choose when they come in what they want.
Mhm.
So
Oh, I want both now. Oh my goodness. Okay, well, next time I see you guys at a conference, I want to definitely just come lie on the stuff, and something tells me that that could be a really good thing for me. I don't know. I feel like, oh, I kept getting when you guys were talking about it, I kept getting you know how they say with someone with PTSD that talk therapy is sometimes really dangerous?
Yeah.
Because it's not a good idea, because your brain can't associate, like, what's actually happening and what happened in the past, and there's different reasons, but for some reason that just kept coming through as to kind of why this mat compared to the purple mat, there's something different about it, because it doesn't make them go out, and which can be triggering or
Mhm.
something, like the
Right.
energy of it
Because they
is
don't feel
too.
yeah,
right.
just something that happens in the brain and the energy field that makes them feel unsafe. And then on the black tourmaline mat, what we have seen in real time is that it's just like,
Right.
they're
It's
like a
it's
cocoon.
comforting, and then like when you feel comfortable, especially with your environment, and you have these frequencies like cocooning you pretty much. I mean, like we're seeing people actualize their trauma.
They're able
So
to verbalize it.
and it's also the practitioner too. Like I was standing there with one of, like, he was actually a Marine. He was a 10-year Marine, and he was just talking, talking. And at
Just
the
holding
end of it,
space.
he's like, I'm sweating a bit. He's like, I feel a lot lighter though. And he's like, I don't know why I told you all that.
So we don't ask, like people
Right.
just share and
I'm
hold
like, yeah,
space.
it definitely holds space, and it's a
Yeah.
beautiful thing that happens, and it's
My kind of clairvoyant energy healer woman that I saw for a really long time, she would always teach me, how to protect my own energy field. And one
Mhm.
of the things that has stuck with me to this day was, I remember her telling me to get, when I needed to be grounded and when I needed to protect myself and my energy. She's like, imagine pulling up from Mother Earth and see it as black soil. Like you're pulling up this black, beautiful energy that's like grounding and just brings you right into earth. And then up here is the light, it's source, and it's white, it's pure, whatever light color you want to think of it. But you pull that down here, but you pull up from Mother Earth here, so that you're grounded in both directions.
Mhm.
And I've always remembered that analogy, and I do it still to this day. And that's what, when you think of the black tourmaline, is it tourmaline?
Yep,
Tourmaline,
totally.
yeah.
Yep.
That's what it reminds me of, is like black earth, like it's more grounding, it's more rooting, which would be safer for some people.
Mhm. Yep.
And think about how disconnected most of us are living in these boxes,
Mm-hmm.
full light
Right.
spectrums, and never going outside and getting in contact with the earth. We have evolved over tens of thousands of years to walk on this earth's surface. Why are we denying ourselves those frequencies now? And we justify that we're too busy to do all of these things, because we've been telling our clients for years, hey, it's free. Go outside barefoot, go lay in the grass. And they're like, I don't have time for that.
They won't do
So
it. But
Right.
like
bring
making
nature
it
into their
easier,
home.
yeah, making it easier and more accessible for someone just to hop on this tech and feel completely grounded, like they're out in nature. That was the whole idea of it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so higher frequency, is this kind of more energetic than the lower frequency? And that's kind of how you can.
So we talked about magnetism staying the same, but the hertz frequency, the electric component, you can increase. This
Okay.
matches not only brainwave frequencies. So when you were saying like at those lower frequencies, you could almost go to sleep. It's like almost hard to make words. You feel a little googly eyed, like your body's.
Mhm.
Yeah, this is,
You literally melt
yeah,
into the mat. You're
yeah.
just like this pool of like, oh my God.
And it's like, like you've been wandering around like this all day, like your shoulders are
Right. Yeah.
everything just kind of unwinds and softens. You will still get what we call, you just said mat melt at the higher frequencies, but you'll actively feel like more mental clarity, creativity. We often have some of our best thoughts and ideas that come in at those higher frequencies.
Right.
So it ends up being, again, charging. We call it a human charging pad.
Yeah.
Mhm,
Or you have
mhm.
like Zoom or you're on a call, you can be on the mat too. That's an awesome thing about that is that you can work on the mat. You can have your phone, you
You don't
can
have
put
to
it
lay
right
down.
on the mat because it's ELF. It won't disrupt our technology.
Devices.
So
Okay.
we're not opponents of having the black mirror in your hand, right?
All the
The
time.
phones all the time. But I mean, like it helps, you know, with energy and helps mitigate those negative frequencies too that are coming through the
Harmonizing
technology.
some of those awful EMFs that we're constantly
Right.
being bombarded with. So
Yeah.
calming the cells in our body. And like Mike was talking about earlier, your body's super smart. So literally our body's constantly scanning and looking at cellular voltage because every one of our cells is like a little battery. So for instance, your shoulder had lower voltage. So when you're on the mat and the body's now, hey, I have more energy, it's going to direct it to this
Shoots it over
place
to your
where
shoulder.
before you didn't have as much vital reserve. You know, your body's focused on survival first and foremost. So now it's sending more oxygen, you know, so tissue oxygenation, blood flow, nutrient absorption to that site at a cellular level.
Mhm.
Mhm. And it gets really hot when you got that infrared going, just so people know like the experience, because you kind of lie on it and you kind of feel like you're lying on some rocks. And it's like, hmm. And then it's so interesting because it's almost a little bit uncomfortable. And then you get the heat starts up and the frequencies start up, and it's literally a matter of minutes before you feel your whole system shifting.
Mhm.
And then and you're like, "Oh," and it gets warmer, and it's like and then honestly, you feel like you're not lying on rocks anymore. You feel like you're lying on something really comfortable. Like I said, I'm spending 2 hours. It's on my couch in my living room, folded up right there, right at the end. It's awful. So I can just unfold it at the end of the day, lie down, and spend 2 hours, and it's really quite comfortable, like, when it gets going. So
Because
So
you're
it's I
actually
don't know, interesting.
levitating. You're levitating off the mat. That's
magnet, one of those maglev trains, you know, you're not even touching that.
So just to go over, it's just some of the things that it can help with. We know cellular repair, increasing oxygen and tissue repair can help boost the immune system. Great for athletes, chronic inflammation, stress, sleep, wound healing, pain reduction. Anything kind of odd that you guys have heard, like just testimonials that you want to mention?
Well, I think like the most odd things that we heard was more of like the mental emotional purging, you
Mhm.
know,
We've
of frequencies
seen.
that can see. And we've seen that, we've heard it and we've seen that time and time again. And it's nothing to be scared of. It's your body just like processing these emotions that no longer need to be there because you're not running from that metaphorical tiger anymore. And you have more energy to actually start going through these processes and releasing it.
Mhm,
So
mhm,
that's one of the coolest things we've seen.
Most
mhm,
people fall asleep on the mat. Just
Yeah.
their body takes what it needs. You give an inch, it takes a mile, and it's like most people are so sleep deprived, and that's where our body heals and regenerates most efficiently. So talk about anti-aging. You mentioned the immune system. Well, it's a byproduct. Like when we are in stress, it down regulates our immune system. Cortisol, the hormone, does that. So if you talk a lot about that with hormones, like so when we're shifting out of stress, it gives the body an opportunity to regulate the circadian system and regulate our hormonal system, releasing, stress and pain. Cortisol is a pain dampening initially, but long term, which I think almost everybody out there has been super stressed for a super long time, it
mhm,
starts, you start to feel more pain.
mhm.
So helping not like a tense sort of like electrical stimulation, the way that dampens pain receptors. PEMF actually helps regenerate at a cellular level. So it's not dampening anything. It's actually helping your cells accelerate a healing response.
Yeah, and you told me a funny story too about Nat Nidham, my friend Nat, at the biohacking conference. Which she is like me. She's type A. She's high strung. She's just go, 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 go. The woman doesn't stop. And she came and she lied down on the mat. You told me she fell asleep like within minutes and had no idea.
How long have I been out? I'm like, 10 minutes, you're good. She's like, she was speaking that night at the event, I think. So I don't know what happened after she got up, but she's like, the first thing she said, she's like, I'm on. These are my people. I'll never fall asleep. And then like I talked to him and I turned back around.
And then she's passed out.
It was exactly what her body needed, though. It's beautiful.
Yeah,
So,
and she was one of the people that helped convince me to get one in the first place, and when I didn't know what even they were good for, because she had bought one for her parents. She had said that she found it really helped her aging parents that were in some pain and stuff. So it was, yeah. So she was one of the people, but that's a good story. So I appreciate that. Well, you guys, we can, I mean, obviously we can just keep talking, but okay, you guys can find your own AlignMat and purchase your own. We got a great coupon code for the listeners, Karen5, and that will get you $100 off your Zen mat or $150 off your Stealth mat. So you're going to have to make that decision, that very hard decision of which mat is good for you. But listen to yourself, listen to the intuition. You'll know, right? Website, social media, tell everybody where to find you guys.
My AlignMat. So both myalignmat.com and then Instagram is also my AlignMat. Actually, every platform, I think, Facebook.
Everything, Facebook,
and
YouTube. We're on YouTube now.
Good.
So we're starting to post all video tutorials, best set and settings to use the mat when, more education. That's a huge
good.
What you know our heart speaks to is being educators in this space. So talking about that and sharing more so people have a full breadth and depth of understanding of why they're using the technology and how to really tap into themselves.
My gosh, you're gonna have to interview me on your YouTube mat, or I mean your YouTube mat, your YouTube channel about the mat.
Yeah.
And how it can help with hormones and your stress, right? Because stress is one of the biggest like issues with hormones. So yeah. Anyways, and I can tell I can share my testimonial on there too for you guys.
All right, we're gonna
because I'm a believer. I knew this was it. So I'm just so happy that we finally were aligned and we could come together to talk about it and educate the audience.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us. We had a lot of fun.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.